All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Belle Isle Residents Association 2022 annual meeting. Unfortunately, we're doing this on Zoom again because of coronavirus. I'm quite positive this will be the last time we'll have to do an annual meeting over Zoom, I hope. And from now on will be a format. Since we have not been able to get together in a few years, a couple of years, we're definitely going to see about holding a more of a social event sometime in the spring or whenever it is safe to do so. I will say my office just had its first meeting yesterday in person and I did not go. And we got an email the same night that somebody who was in the group tested positive. So I think it's prudent of us not to be together right now. So I miss seeing everybody, but thank you for joining us on this meeting. Okay, so tonight we have our annual meeting. We're going to do our annual business, and then we're going to go on and I'm going to introduce Joe Gomez, who is the Director of Public Works for the City of Miami Beach. It's the third largest department, and we will go into some more details about that. But as far as our annual meeting business goes, I would like to introduce Gary Core, who's our treasurer, and have our treasurer's report for the year. Gary?
There we are. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Scott. I wanted to report that we have, thankfully, $12,000 in the bank. We have income of $2,400 a year, web expenses of $1,700, and that's about as short and sweet as it is. So I'm through, unless you have any questions.
Unless we have any questions from the board. Thank you very much. And next we're going to go to Herb Frank, and we're going to have an introduction and election of new board members for 2022. Herb? Herb, if you're there, you might be muted.
Sorry about that. I'll start again. Hello, everybody. Forgive me for reading this. It's going to take a couple of minutes, and I hope you'll find it interesting. David Leeds and I, as the nominating committee, are happy to tell you that for the year 2022, two impressive individuals will be joining the board, and that will bring us to 13 members out of a possible 15. Before getting into the details and introducing our two new members, we wish to thank John Guffey for his many years being a board member and for his service to our community. And we also thank Louis Moreno for joining the board when we needed him. And we thank Joseph Rodjak, excuse me for the pronunciation, who recently advised that he prefer not to remain on the board, as Bell Towers, 16 Island Avenue, will be represented by a new board member. And a very big thank you to Monica Tracy, who has been our secretary for many years, taking the minutes of all of our board meetings. Monica is remaining on the board and will be involved in other activities. And last but for sure not least, our president, Scott Diffenderfer, chooses to step down from the job of board president after leading the association for over 10 years. Look at Belle Isle now. A beautiful, safe paradise known throughout our city as one of the best residential communities in all of Miami Beach. Let's show Scott our appreciation for the work he has done with a huge round of applause, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Scott, too, will remain on the board. He will be advising and sharing his knowledge and years of experience. Normally, officers are elected at the board meeting following the annual meeting. However, since the board has already agreed to the officers for this year, tonight we will be voting on the board slate and the officers as well. Scott Van Hove will be the president in 2022. Sean Patrick Bryant will be the vice president. Kara Glazer will be our secretary, and Gary Corr will remain as treasurer. And now let's find out who the two newcomers are, who will be elected for a 2-year term through 12/31/23. Kara Glazer, a resident of Vistas, and Sean Patrick Bryan, a resident of 16 Island Avenue, Bell Towers. And now, Kara, I hope you're here, will you tell us about yourself? And then Sean Patrick, please do the same. Kara? Yes, something went wrong. She told me earlier today her computer wasn't working. So maybe that's what happened. Okay, so Sean, you can pick it up and I'll say something about Kara after.
Okay, thanks, Herb. Thanks, Scott. My name is Sean Patrick Bryant, and as Herb said, we live at 16 Island Avenue in Bell Towers. I am a resident of Miami Beach for a little over 18 years. Prior to being on Belle Isle, I lived in the West Avenue neighborhood. Although I think I came to Belle Isle almost every day with my dog Dublin in the park. During my time in the West Avenue neighborhood, I served on the board of West Avenue Neighborhood Association, WAVNA. And I'm familiar with neighborhood associations and how positive they can be and how much the city of Miami Beach respects them. So I look forward to, getting involved with BIRA. My partner, Michael, and I are both here. So look forward to meeting more people and look forward to working with BIRA. Thank you.
Okay, so Kara has been a resident here for a couple of years, and she recently retired from the work she was doing. She had a very professional job. I can't recall exactly what it was, but she is going to be our secretary. She already started by taking we had a meeting 2 days ago, and she did a great job. So we're looking forward to having her share her experiences with us. Thank you both. Joining them, being reelected for a 2-year term ending 12/31/23 are Arlene De La Tour and Gary Rugg. Gary's here. Congratulations, Gary. Remaining on the board are those who were elected in 2021, serving a 2-year term through 12/31/22. That's the end of this year. Monica Tracy, Scott Diffenderfer, Herb Frank, Gary Corr, David Leeds, Debbie Leibowitz, Scott Van Hove, Nikki Goldbeck, and Laura Dominguez. That's a total of 13 of us, and I'm sure we're going to have lots of challenges and have a great year. Normally, we take a voice vote from the members at this annual meeting, electing the slate, but under these conditions, unless a majority of the Belle Isle resident members raise their hands, we'll assume the membership votes in favor. We'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, so it looks like it's unanimous. Congratulations to all the members of the BIRA board for 2022. And now, will the board of directors vote for the officers as previously stated? Please say I do if you agree. I do.
I do.
Everybody does? Are there any no's? Okay. So the yeses have it. I think that's basically it. We'll have 13 board members, and we're looking forward to a great year, and people can share, get in touch with us anytime, and so on the board or on our website, phone numbers, etc. Scott, take it back. It's all for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Herb. So next we're going to go, and we're almost there to our guest speaker, but I'd like Sean Patrick Bryant to give us a recap of some of our accomplishments for 2021.
Okay. Let me take the screen. Okay. The BIRA achievements for 2021, we had a list of them that I can go through quickly for you. Number one, worked with the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, to limit the proposed bridge height increase between Belle Isle and Revo Alto while retaining the access and the use of the side parks. Supported a citywide ordinance to ban gas-fueled leaf blowers with conversion over to electric blowers. Worked with the city to install new lighting in the park. Worked with the city to create a water station in the dog park to rinse the dirt mud off of the dogs. Worked with the city to install a yield sign for drivers exiting North Island Avenue onto Venetian Way. Held a webinar with Miami-Dade Mayor Daniela Levine Cava on March 19th with 75 community registrants and 8 elected officials. And then we held our BIRA Annual Meeting on January 26th with 78 people attending.
Okay, and later we're going to go over some of our goals and aspirations for this year coming up. So before I go any further, I'd like to thank some people, some guests that we have or may have soon. I'd like to thank Commissioner Mark Samuelin, who lives on Belle Isle. He has registered for this evening. State Representative Michael Grieco will be here or is here. And I know that Kevin Polito, who's our neighborhood affairs manager and always very helpful when we have an issue. Thanks for showing up, Kevin. So that being said, I'd like to introduce Joe Gomez. Joe Gomez brings over 44 years of experience in all facets of infrastructure, including planning, design, construction, operations, and maintenance. During his career, he's worked in private land development for the Florida Department of Transportation as a consultant, and most recently for the City of Miami Beach in Public Works. Joe is a proud alumnus of Miami-Dade College and Florida International University. He's been a registered professional engineer since 1985 and holds a lot of accreditations and has won numerous awards. He's been a member of the Florida Engineering Society since 1996 and served as chapter president, state chapter director, and currently serves as Region 7 vice president and chair of the State Scholarship Committee. On July of 2021, Joe was unanimously confirmed by the City Commission as the Director of Public Works for Miami Beach. He's responsible for the 3rd largest department in the city with over 360 employees and 4 divisions with a total capital and operating budget of approximately $600 million. And Frank, I assume you speak fluent FDOT since that's one of the things we don't understand very well. So we know what your purview is, but we know you speak FDOT, so we may have some questions that have to do with them. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. And I think you are able to share your screen if you so desire. So
yes, thank you so much, Scott, for the invite, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I truly appreciate the honor of being with you tonight and answer your questions. I do have a presentation which I'm going to go through pretty quickly, and at the end, Scott, I will email you the presentation, and you can obviously distribute this as you see fit. But I'll go through it relatively quickly. But I did want to give you an overview of the Public Works Department and some of the functions and all that. So I will share my screen, and let's see if I can pull it up. Where is it? Let's see. Not showing up. Oh, there it is. Okay, share. All right, and I'm going to put it on PowerPoint mode. All right, can everybody see my screen okay?
yes, sir.
Thumbs up. Okay, excellent. Thank you. All right, so the Public Works Department, one of the things that we're really proud of is we are an accredited Public Works Department with the American Public Works Association, and this is actually a very prestigious organization that provides accreditation services throughout the United States. We are the 159th municipal agency, public agency to be accredited out of 27,000 in North America. And we're the 23rd in the state of Florida to be accredited out of 1,900 municipalities and organizations. We were first accredited in June of 2015, re-accredited in 2019. It's every 4 years. So we will be gearing up this year because it takes a while to get everything ready to be accredited again in 2023. This just is an overview of our organizational structure. When I came into Public Works this past August, one of the first things I did was make some organizational changes that better suited the way the department is moving forward. So we have, as Scott mentioned, we have 4 divisions within Public Works, and I'll get to those in a minute. The Engineering Division, Infrastructure Division, Green Space Division, and Sanitation Division. Rodney Knowles, who is our Assistant Director of Public Works and is a registered landscape architect. Rodney is directly responsible for Green Space, which is where he was a division director before he was promoted to the rank of Assistant Director. Rodney's been with the city for 14 years now, and has grown through the ranks in Green. So he was the division director for Green Space, and he's now our assistant director. He also oversees the Sanitation Division. There's a lot of cross synergy between sanitation and Green Space, so he handles that. And the Engineering Division and Infrastructure Divisions report directly to me, along with we have a budget and finance analyst who helps us with our capital and operating budgets, which are very important. So first, talk about the Infrastructure Division. It really is comprised of 4 parts: the water, wastewater, stormwater, and then the streets and street lighting. Lise Desir Jr. Is our Infrastructure Division Director. Some of you may have known Rudy De La Torre. Rudy was the division Infrastructure Division Director for the past 6 years. Rudy unfortunately decided to retire this past January the 31st. So Lise was his assistant director and was promoted to division director. Lise has been with the city of Miami Beach for 21 years, has grown through the ranks, and has really worked in all aspects, all areas of the Infrastructure Division. So we're really happy to have Lise as our new director. So just a little bit about what our infrastructure area handles. We have 4 water storage tanks with a capacity of about 14 million gallons. 2 of them are in our Infrastructure Division yard right off of Dade Boulevard next to Miami Beach Senior High. And then another 2, the 71st Street area. These are some of the statistics. I won't read them all, but it is a lot of infrastructure that we have. 78 pump stations in total that include water, wastewater, and stormwater. Over 7,000 street lights. Some of them are maintained by FPL. Some of them are maintained by Miami-Dade County, and the majority of them are, and some of them by FDOT, but the vast majority are maintained by the city of Miami Beach. And as you can see, lots of seawalls. Out of the 55 miles of seawalls that we have in the city of Miami Beach, the city only owns 5 of those are publicly owned. The rest are all privately owned. And then we have 12 miles of inland canals within the city of Miami Beach. So it is a lot of infrastructure for a city that's just slightly under 8 square miles. It is a lot of infrastructure. So in the water division, we have over 180 miles of water mains total. 86 water crossings. Those are the pipes that you see crossing over bridges. Over 1,000 fire hydrants, and as you can see, fire and valves. One of the things that we do is we're required from the state health department, as well as local requirements, to constantly test our water to make sure it meets the highest quality standards. In 2021, we conducted over 2,100 tests to ensure that our stakeholders are receiving the highest quality water. One of the unique features that we have in Miami Beach is we have a control room that operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's always manned. And at the end of the presentation, you'll have not only the phone number that you see there, but you'll have an email that you can reach out to the control room for any issues that you have. And this one we maintain, this is where we track all of our pump stations, how they're responding to different pressure scenarios. If we have a water issue, we can detect all that through our system. We're also in the process right now. We have a project in place that's called a SCADA project to upgrade and have more of these, including the stormwater pump stations, communicate with our control room system so that we completely will be able to, all the communications will be seamless throughout our city. The wastewater division, again, that's responsible for all the force mains, gravity sewer systems within Miami Beach. One of the unique things is we buy our water bulk from Miami-Dade Water and Sewer, and then we send our sewer effluent to Miami-Dade, back to Miami-Dade County on a bulk. So we're billed bulk rates from Miami-Dade County. In return, we have three satellite cities, Bal Harbor, Surfside, and Bay Harbor Islands that we service because their systems come through the city of Miami Beach. So we actually charge them a markup for the use of our facilities, and in turn that's passed on. Obviously, they pass it on to their consumers, and we provide that service to them. 23 pump stations, 122 miles of sanitary gravity sewer pipes. And one of the things that we're pretty proud of is we just recently were notified by the state of Florida through the Florida Resilient Grant Program that we received a $7.2 million grant, which has to be ratified by the legislature, but we believe it will, totaling about $7.2 million to continue to upgrade our gravity sewer system. So we're very, very happy with that award. And then the stormwater division, that's one of the other divisions within infrastructure, and that handles all of our stormwater pipings, our manholes, our catch basins, outfalls, and the 49 pump stations that we have online to handle the stormwater. And then the last division inside of infrastructure is the streets and street lighting, which maintains all the roads, the street pavement, street lights, bridges, the bridges that are locally owned by the city of Miami Beach, the seawalls, things of that nature, landscape uplights, street lights. Again, we have cooperative agreements with Florida Department of Transportation where we maintain lights, for example, like on Collins Avenue, although it's a state road, we maintain those lights. And then we have a contractor that specializes in maintaining FDOT lighting systems, and they do the maintenance on those lights, as well as we have in-house forces that are constantly doing upgrades and maintenance of our street lighting system. Next is the sanitation division. Of the 4 divisions within Public Works, this is the largest, approximately 200 employees in this division. Bradford Kane was our sanitation director, division director. Brad is a highly experienced public works specialist. He has served in this capacity in other municipalities throughout South Florida in his 20-some-odd plus year career. So he has a lot of experience, and particularly in the sanitation area. So we're very fortunate that Brad is part of the team. And of course, a collection of disposal of residential garbage, residential recycling program, street sweeping, public rights of way, disposal of litter from public litter bins, That's all part of our system. The way we work in Miami Beach is our collection and disposal of all the residential garbage is done through we have a franchise agreement with two waste haulers, Waste Management and Waste Connections, throughout the city, and then also the recycling program as well. And then in addition to that, we obviously collect from all the trash receptacles throughout the city, the street sweeping through, and the litter control, doggy receptacles. We maintain those as well. And in street sweeping, we have 4 street sweepers that kind of they patrol the city, about 160 miles worth of city, not only city streets, but county. We have some county roads, like, for example, Dade Boulevard. It's under Miami-Dade County's jurisdiction. Alton Road, for example, is a state road. So we sweep all of the vast majority of the roads within the city. And then we have the portable units that use, for example, Lincoln Road, as you see here. We have the portable sweepers, and we're moving into we're looking at newer technologies now, instead of the gas powered. As we're moving away from the gas powered leaf blowers, we're also looking at the hybrid technology and the electric technology for both the street sweepers, as well as the smaller sweepers and vacuums as well. We do a lot of pressure cleaning throughout the city, in particular areas, graffiti, removal of graffiti when we find it. We work with our facilities group in doing that, pressure cleaning, and replacing these, because of our aggressive environment in Miami Beach. We tend to have a lot of these receptacles, so sometimes they'll start rusting out. So we have to remove and replace them. So we're constantly looking at and making sure that they're in good condition. And as was mentioned earlier on in Mr. Bryant's presentation about the moving from gas powered to battery powered, that is correct. We're converting green space. Our green space division has already moved in and is completely battery powered. Sanitation will be totally moved over to the gas powered, the battery powered technology by the end of the first quarter of 2022. So that's a commitment we made. It was an ordinance that was passed in the city, so we're moving in that direction. Our engineering division, it handles anything that is related to the design projects throughout the city. We also provide ADA responsibilities throughout the city. We inspect and certify elevators, both private and public. Engineering, everything from the regulatory compliance, the planning and the design, and then construction management, overseeing construction projects. GIS is an incredible resource for the city, and it provides a lot of useful information, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then our right-of-way department, which handles a lot of the permits. Any permit, any work that's done in city right-of-way has to go through the right-of-way office, which is part of the engineering division. Christina Ortega is our city engineer. She was appointed in December of 2021. She's been with the city for about 1.5 years, and she's a highly experienced technical engineer. So ADA, we provide all kinds of services, everything from ADA accommodations, in-house training to other departments, plan reviews to make sure that development plans are ADA compliant. We do site meetings, construction inspections. Valeria Mejia, she's an architect by education, is our ADA manager. She also works closely with the caption services to make sure that all of our city meetings are readily accessible for those that are visually or hearing impaired. Elevator section, like I said, Joey Gann, highly experienced chief elevator inspector. His team, they constantly are working on and certifying and inspecting elevators, providing plan reviews for new buildings that are coming online that obviously will have the tall buildings will have elevators. Also escalators, moving escalators, those are covered within the purview of the elevator section. And then the engineering, obviously all kinds of different services that we provide that are critical to really getting the product out, making sure that our infrastructure is designed correctly, and providing all those services. Water quality is an incredibly important issue. We've got several different programs that are going on right now. The city adopted a blue-green infrastructure. We've got a bioswale project that's part of the blue-green infrastructure program that we're in the process of completing. 59th Street between North Bay Road and Alton. That project should be completed by the end of this month, and it's a project that we worked very closely with Miami-Dade County as well as the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So we also finalized our integrated water management plan, which talks about addresses both water quality, not only water quantity, but water quality as well. These are this slide just for this, I believe this goes back since 2016, all the projects that we have completed, and they're color coded in the map, everything from coastal to stormwater to potable water projects that we have completed, or we have ongoing designs right now to complete. The GIS, like I said, it really an incredibly important tool. Nestor Navarro, he's actually a GIS professional. He is the manager of this group. We work with everything from making sure that addressing in the city is correct for billing purposes, making sure we have the correct information for all our residents, cartography to provide the most accurate mapping. We work with all the agencies to make sure that the cartography of the city is accurate and correct. Asset management, making sure that we track all our assets, everything from lights to drainage structures to everything that's considered a public asset is tracked within GIS. We work a lot with our emergency management services, with our Department of Emergency Management, making sure that we track even during potential storm events, that we have all data available, potential areas for flooding, things like that. That's all provided by the GIS database. And we also work with our police department in terms of providing them with information related to crime statistics and things like that, where PD may have a particular project that they request, and GIS will provide that information for them. And then our right-of-way department is responsible for anything that's related to work within the public right-of-way. Utility, any kind of utility work, street closures, driveway. If you're constructing a new driveway that's connecting to the city street, that's got to go through a right-of-way permit. Crane setups and equipments, when cranes have to set up to install air conditioning units on buildings, they have to occupy the right-of-way. They're required to have a permit. Sidewalk cafes, parklets, all that. Even newspaper and bicycle racks all have to go through the right-of-way department. O'Neill Rodriguez is our right-of-way manager, and he's part of the engineering division. And then Brian Bellino is our city surveyor, and Brian he's a repository of information, as most surveyors who have been on the job for a long time are. He's sort of a historian, has a tremendous amount of information on the city, and all of its boundaries, control points. We work very closely with the city attorney's office in interpreting legal descriptions and easements and things like that. In a city like Miami Beach, especially with a lot of development, that's also very important. So he is the repository of a lot of our documents. And then finally, the Green Space Division. Michael Atkin is our Green Space Division Director. Is responsible for really just the health and vitality of all of our landscaping within our public rights of way. whether it's residential rights of way or commercial rights of way, in front of municipal buildings, parking facilities, coastal areas, Lincoln Road Mall. And the way green space works is really it's four areas: the administration part, the contract, the landscape. Because our green space group is relatively small, it's about a group of about 25 professionals. A lot of our maintenance services in terms of pruning and the normal routine maintenance is contracted out. We do have a team that does emergency pruning services and things of that nature. And then we also do special projects and installations that we may get a request from. Our team will perform that internally. We also have consultants that help us out. What we don't do is we do not trim near power lines. And the reason for that is primarily it's a safety issue. Trimmers that trim around power lines have to go through a special training. They have to be approved by FPL, since FPL is our utility company that handles our power. They have to be pre-approved by FPL in order to come near the power lines. So I know sometimes you get requests on trimming fronds near power lines. If it's too close, we cannot do that. We are in the process right now working on bringing in a FPL approved contractor on board to have on standby for situations like that. But when cases like that, we have to fall back on FPL's contractor to be able to trim around power lines. And then this is just the administration services. And we work also with our parks department, our facilities department, and parking departments to make sure that landscaping within those areas is up to the city standards. And again, like I said, special projects that we may be asked to do, as well as any emergency tree trimming service. If a tree is sick or is about to, and we've had that case where after a storm or whatever, we've had trees that are about to fall, our green space team will be dispatched to dispose of the tree. And I'm going to provide you some contact information. You don't have to write it down. I will provide this presentation to Scott, but this will give you all the emails for all the different divisions within Public Works, as well as mine and Rodney's email. I also wanted to provide you with the control room, very important, and I highlighted in yellow because if you ever have an issue, whether it's a street light or anything, or let's say you detect a foul smell and you think it's coming from the sewer line or whatever, all you need to do is send an email to control room operators at miamibeachfl.gov, and immediately within minutes of receiving that email, a service request will be initiated, and then a team will be dispatched to assess the situation and determine. And obviously, if it's an emergency, we do have personnel always on standby 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the entire year, to be able to handle some emergencies. And then contacts for the sanitation department as well as green space as well. Again, I'll provide this to Scott at the very end. And that's it. It probably took a little longer than I wanted, but I know you have questions of me, and so thank you for the opportunity to give you this overview of Public Works, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I'll try to anyway.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to do is we had a lot of questions. We had several questions come in regarding some that I sent you ahead of time. But so I'm going to tell the residents, we got all your questions. Some of them, many of them do not have anything to do with Public Works. So just because we're not going to answer them right now and Joe's here does not mean we will answer them afterwards. But we're going to focus on the questions that came in that Joe will be able to answer. And Harry is coming up to see.
All right.
So Joe, and I want to remind everybody, Joe just became director
Yeah.
last July. So
In
there's
fact, last night was my 6-month anniversary. So yeah, at the long commission meeting. So yes,
congratulations.
thank
So,
you.
you know, one of the things that obviously has been a big distress to many of us is these constant water main breaks and sewer breaks. And I'm going to ask you a multi-part question. We know that the infrastructure is old, sometimes in the case 70, 80 years old. We know that the city is trying to repair things, but I guess it seems to have gotten to the point where it's constant, it's playing catch up, and we have these constant issues. I'm going to talk to you in concert with this failing infrastructure. We are building like crazy, and we're adding capacity to all these systems that can't even handle what they're dealing with now. So give us some background on that. Give us some perspective from your department, from city leadership, and how people are feeling about this continuous addition to construction and stuff and pressure on our infrastructure that cannot even handle what it's dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Let's start with
Yeah, great question, Scott. And yes, a lot of our water and sewer infrastructure is old, and not only is it old, but it is under constant attack by Mother Nature, meaning that we have a very aggressive environment in the city of Miami Beach. Most of these pipes, these older pipes, are of the metal type. Some of them are either cast iron. From cast iron, we gravitated towards ductile iron, and now we're moving away completely from the metal pipes. The fittings still have to be metal because of the strength to lock in the joints, and especially when you have bends. But for the most part, we're going to be moving away from that type of material to what we call the HDPE pipe, which is the high definition polyethylene pipe. And also the PVC C900 pipe, which is a very plastic but extremely rigid and strong pipe, depending on if you use it for water or sewer. We're moving away. We're moving more towards that type of pipe as opposed to the metal pipe. And the reason for that is, and what we've seen in these breaks in the past, and believe me, the month of September, a month after I started, we had 3 force main breaks. All within the same area, right at the entrance to the Venetian Causeway, almost back to back to back. It was tough, and what's happening to a lot of these older pipes is over time, the wrapping that was put around them, because when in the old days when you would install these metal pipes, they would put this wrap around them. The wrapping has broken. We were very tidally influenced. So you have the groundwater, which has saltwater intrusion in it, coming in, hitting the pipe, and then the tide goes down. So you get those air voids. So the combination of the saltwater and the air, constant attack. So in all the ruptures, including the last one, the last 2 we had on the 1st and on the 4th, are always on the bottom of the pipe. And again, the reason for that is that's where the contact is made. And then it has been difficult. We've been making the emergency repairs. Now, on the good side is after that 3rd force main break in the month of September, I went ahead and after discussing it with the city manager, declared an emergency to replace the entire pipe, and it's a little bit of almost 3/4 of a mile that extends all the way along Dade Boulevard to Michigan Avenue, that feeds into the Venetian Causeway to replace that pipe. We have that right now through a design builder. We already have them under contract. They're already working they're working in an accelerated mode. And then the technology that will be used will be what we call HDD, which is horizontal directional drilling, which is kind of like tunneling. And the advantage to that is we don't have to open up thousands of feet of roadway to install the pipe and then close it back up and then have all these patches. It's all done through a machine. So you only dig a pit at the point where the machine enters, and then you start putting the pipe, the casing through, and then the pipe, and it's pulled from the other end. Once that's done and we make the connections, then the old pipe that's there, we cap it, we close it, we drain the pipe out, we cap it, we close it, we leave it so we don't have to tear up the road. And that will replace that entire force main. Consecutively with that, we're also working, and we're going to extend that to the first aisle, which is Belle Isle, right? As you go across the eastern end of the Venetian Causeway, we're going to carry that to that first island under this project. Then we have a simultaneous project that's currently on the design in an accelerator fashion to also replace the water and sewer pipes that are strapped on to the Venetian Causeway bridges, and we're going to go subaqueous on those pipes where the bridges are, and then they'll come back up on the land side, and we'll connect those to and then horizontal directional drill between each of the islands. So that project is currently under design as well. We're hoping to get that project, and our expectation is we want to get out of the way of Miami-Dade County, as you alluded to earlier in the present. The county has plans to replace the Venetian Causeway bridges. So we know that we can't strap our pipes anymore under the new criteria to bridges. We have to be separate, and in order to avoid any conflicts, we're going to go the horizontal directional in subaqueous route and get out of their way. So we want to be done before they even actually start constructing the bridges. So once that's all done, for the most part, that backbone system through the city limits on the Venetian Islands, all the way up to Michigan Avenue on Dade Boulevard will all be complete, and that will alleviate a tremendous amount of stress within that area, because we have a lot of residents and businesses and all that feed into these systems, and that force main, that 16-inch force main, is a critical force main. So,
Joe, what would be the completion date of that entire project that you're talking?
The first one, the first one, because it's actually we're doing it in two parts. So we've got the first one, which is the Dade Boulevard, because of all the ruptures we had on Dade Boulevard near West Avenue. We just had one right next to West Avenue. That project right now is already under an accelerated design build contract. We expect to have that completed sometime by mid-2023, and that's because we're also under the gun with Miami-Dade County DERM to make sure that we complete that. So our target is spring of 2023 to have it not only completed but functional and have the old aligned and capped off. The second part, which is the replacement of the Venetian Causeway bridges, that one will probably be that one right now is under an accelerated design, and we're looking at probably we're 2022. I would probably say to have it fully complete sometime in my guess would be early 2025.
Okay, one quick follow-up. Do you anticipate us continuing during this construction process to have the amount of sewage leaks and into the bay around Sunset Harbor to the same frequency we have been?
Well, once we replace that big piece on Dade Boulevard, most of that all of that will go away, because we'll have a new line up to the point to the entrance of the Venetian Causeway. So that Sunset Harbor area obviously was affected by those 3 breaks, and then the other one at just further down on West Avenue. So once that one is in place, that should all go away because we'll have a new line in place, and then the old one will be, like I said, pumped out. We cap it, so it just becomes an obsolete pipe in the ground. You just leave it there, not to remove it to destroy the street. So to answer your question, I mean, Sean, I wish I could tell you that we're not going to have any other breaks. Look, every time we have one of these breaks, my blood pressure goes up 100 points. But truthfully, here is the issue. Every time we repair a section of an old pipe and we put in new pieces, we're transferring the stress to the weakest link. And that's the way these pressure systems work. So these are force mains and water mains, so they work under pressure. And when you take a section that's broken and replace it with good pipe, well, that good pipe will work. But now that pressure, that new pipe provides a little more movement, so there's a little more pressure, and it'll find the weak link. So I guess what I'm telling you is I can't guarantee that we're not going to have another break. We're moving as fast as we can. I realized right away when I joined the city the urgency of this, and because this is a vital, it's the lifeline to your islands, and it's critical. And not only from the sewer side, but also from the water side as well. It's an issue of not having not just potable water, but also for fire as well. So it's critical, and I understand, and our team understands the urgency. They know those are the marching orders. So we are moving as quickly as we can. If we do have another break, obviously our team responds as quickly as possible. And it's always an inconvenience. And the problem is also exacerbated if we have to shut off the pump station and we have to haul the waste. We can't even fill the trucks to the maximum capacity because of the load restrictions, as you know, we have on the bridges. So we have to do more. We have to have more trucks going in and out, and that's a 24-hour operation until the pump station turns back on again. So the best I can tell you is we're moving as quickly as we can to get this done, and we understand the urgency of it.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, and I just heard this, and one of our residents had heard that going forward, the city's asking single family homes that they're not going to be able to hook up to the sewer system, that they were going to have to do septic tanks, which I know has been a big problem in the county, and we're trying to get rid of those. Do you know about that? Have you heard this?
I don't know. I mean, the city that I know of, the city of Miami Beach has no working septic tanks. And that I'm aware of, we would not ever permit a septic tank. So I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay, that's why I asked. I just
yeah.
Okay, now because of all these sewage breaks, we've been stuck hostage on our island before. The roads were completely shut down, and they didn't leave access to get on or off unless you're on a scooter or on foot. So luckily I have a scooter. But there were a lot of, especially elderly people, that had doctor's appointments and other emergencies. Are we going forward? What is going to be the traffic disruption of this? And will there be
Those were my questions.
Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. So great, excellent question. Yes, and we and we heard loud and clear, and particularly the third break, because that one really covered the entire intersection. We could not keep even one lane of traffic because of all the weight of the equipment that's on, and as well as the vehicular weight. Just too much stress on public safety has to trump everything else, and that's got to be the number one consideration. Having said that, we're cognizant of the fact that this is it is the lifeline to the islands. I've been communicating with our transportation team as well as PD, and talking to them about if a situation like this happens again, sending out better notifications, more timely notifications as to how much time we expect to have the closure. I can't predict, I can't tell you for sure that there will not be another occasion where, depending on where the break happens, if it happens on the side and we can squeeze one lane of traffic and safely, we will do that. The issue is safely and, and making sure that cars come in slowly across and all that. And that's also challenging, especially when you're trying to fix the repair and then you've got to mind this. But if we can, we will. But always remember that if it comes to the point where the decision has to be made for the safety of the public, that it's got to be closed, it will. Now, having said that, we did talk about sending out notifications, making sure that people have ample time to be able to reroute their trips, and that we don't landlock anyone in any of the islands, so that it may be circuitous. You may have to go out to the mainland and then come back. But again, we don't want to be sure that we don't landlock anybody and provide access.
Scott, is Gary here? Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Of course.
Okay. Welcome to Miami Beach. You're
Thank
very
you.
impressive with all that you have said and all the questions I had sent in. Scott has asked already, but I'd like to comment about two of your members, because on the water main break on the 13th, 17th of September, Lyles Desir was there.
Yes.
And
He's
he
our
gave
director.
us his cell phone number, and we called him several times, and he was exactly right that it would take 12 hours for that repair to be done. And then 2 weeks later, when the sewer main went, Rudy, who's retired now, I understand.
Yes, sir.
Was there at 7 in the morning overseeing the project that took 28 hours to accomplish. Yes. And I missed doctor's appointments at Mount Sinai both times because I canceled one to go to the next time. And again, that happened, but we left at 7 in the morning to get there by going downtown. So I'd like to comment, and we spoke at commission. My wife spoke at commission.
Yes, you did. I do remember. Thank you.
Thanking Lyles and Rudy for their help throughout that time. So we wish you good luck here. And
thank you, sir. Thank you. And we appreciate the recognition to Lise and Rudy, because we miss Rudy, but we understand it was time for him to move on to greener pastures. And Lise is worked with Rudy for 6 years together, and he is he's a great leader, and we're really happy to have him. And he understands the intricacies of what we're dealing with is Lise, and so I'm really happy to have him as my director.
I'm going to ask anybody in the audience who would like to have a question. You can raise your hand and we can call on you to ask Joe a question. Do any board members have anything they want to add right now while we're waiting, or ask?
Well, Irene Sperber in the audience did have a question at the beginning of the presentation. Joe, you mentioned accredited, and she wants to know what accredited means.
Yeah, so the American Public Works Association, it's an organization that they work with all municipalities, small and large, throughout North America. And they have very strict requirements in terms of everything from having policies and procedures in place to how documentation is kept, how equipment is handled. It's a series of criteria that they have. And what you do is when you apply for accreditation, they will come in and they will conduct an audit. This is very similar to the ISO 9000 certification, but this is for public works organization. It's only for public entities, not for private entities. And if you go through that rigorous audit, once you go through that rigorous audit and you pass, then they provide that accreditation. And as you can see, there's not there's I think 27,000 public agencies in the United States, and only 159. We're one of the 159 that's accredited. It's a tremendous recognition to have that. So we're very proud of that. We want to continue to have that. And that accreditation actually also is helpful when we're applying for grants with the state and the federal government, because as a public agency, the fact that we receive that kind of accreditation from the American Public Works Association, which is a renowned organization, it's looked at very favorably.
Okay, any other board member? We had another question come in. Joe, they're building new apartments here on Belle Isle across the street, 172 of them. And do you have any idea when those are supposed to be completed? And if so, what impact is 172 new units, put into the sewer system going to have at this point? And
well, before those 172 units could be built, they had to go through our sewer allocation process to determine that our system, that the system could handle it. And obviously, because they wouldn't have been able to get their building permit or construct their project had they not received that allocation. So the fact that they did means that our system has the capacity to handle that, or else we would have not issued the allocation, which means that they have the allocation necessary to put in for the number of units. Having said that, our system, obviously, and no secret, our system is old, and we're working hard to replace it. So once the system is, there's two parts. It's the capacity of the system to receive it, and then the system itself, the framework, the skeleton of the system to be able to handle it. Our skeleton is somewhat frail right now. We're trying to improve it, and that we're working through that. But from that perspective, they're fine. They did receive their allocation.
Okay. And this, go ahead, Sean Patrick.
Hey, Joe, do you have any update on the undergrounding of the power lines that goes from the Standard Hotel down to the new apartment building? And and I think we're probably going to be requesting some board members and maybe some other interested people to have a sit-down meeting with you and talk through those details. But could you give us any update?
Yeah, and Sean, thank you. And Scott did send me that particular question. Because of my tenure with the city is not that long, I did reach out to a couple of my colleagues to try to get some information. I didn't get it in time for the meeting, but as soon as I do get it, I will send it to you. I'll email you for sure. And then at any time going forward, I'll be happy to sit down and meet with your board members on this or any other issue.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Joe.
My pleasure.
Do we have any questions from residents yet?
Scott, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
The bridge between Dade Boulevard and the Venetian Causeway, is that going to be reconstructed too?
The bridge between Dade Boulevard and the Venetian Causeway. Oh, the one that's on the eastern side of the Venetian Causeway, right?
Right.
No,
No.
The Venetian Causeway replacement is only to replace just the Venetian Causeway bridges, as well as the movable bridge, the eastern movable bridge.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you something.
Sure.
So you talked about seawalls and
Yes.
how much, so a couple of questions on that one. I know we're all interested to hear about the fiasco of Indian Creek and how that's going, and when we see the end of that nightmare. Do you have any insight to that?
Yes, and I spoke to my counterpart in capital improvements, David Martinez. So we are looking at having the project, the roadway open to traffic by the end of this month. There'll probably still be some fine tuning to some finishing touches, but it will not prevent traffic from being open by the end of this month. The seawall question, I can address that too. As you recall, there were some issues with Indian Creek, and the sea part of the seawall that was supposed to be constructed was stopped. We just issued the contract to do that seawall work, to continue that seawall work in Indian Creek. Most of that's going to be done from the water side. It'll be done with barges, so there'll be minimal impact to traffic on Indian Creek once it opens. Obviously, initially there'll be some equipment and all that, but then we'll moved over. Once they bring the barge in, a lot of that work will be done water side, not on land side. And then in companion to that, we're also looking at a living shoreline project, which is also an improvement of a lot of our areas where we can provide some additional protection to our seawalls using different methods, mangroves and other types of environmentally approved methods. So we've got a living shoreline project that we're right now working with the consultant on several different parts of Miami Beach.
Yeah, that's a very exciting project. And for those of us who've worked on resiliency and it's a great thing. And let me stay on the seawall for a minute. We know that when the city builds seawalls and they are experimenting with these different living mangroves and stuff, whatever on the water side of the seawalls and then building the seawalls behind them.
Right.
When are we going to get? We know that a private properties, particularly Belle Isle, is really interesting because we're a small island and we're probably all going to make sense to get our seawalls raised at one time or around the same time. Where's the city with requiring the raising of seawalls? Do you know like when that will be implemented and how high it will be?
Yeah, the height is 5.7. The elevation 5.7 NAVD, which is the way we measure the vertical datum, 5.7. And the criteria for any property is if the cost of the improvements that you're doing are more than $300 per linear foot. Let's say you're improving your seawall because it's cracked and all that stuff. If the improvements are under $300 per linear foot, you're only required to raise it to 4.2. If it exceeds the $300 per linear foot cost, let's say if you were doing a dock and all that on the cost, then at that point you're required to raise it to the full 5.7 elevation. And that would be the top of the cap of the seawall.
Is there a current standard? So I know that especially those lay people have no idea how high their seawalls are now and what that means. What's the current standard, or what has it been for the last?
Oh goodness. I mean, well, it's seawall elevations in Miami Beach. They vary. We have some that are as low as elevation 2. So any tidal influence, or the water will start coming over that seawall. Standard that I would say is somewhere in the neighborhood of the older seawalls, about 3.5, 3.6 would be the elevation of a lot of the older seawalls. Our new standard, and that's by ordinance, by the way, it's 5.7. And Scott, I can send you that ordinance. We also have a seawall prioritization program that, and we've capitalized it. We've got $20 million that we're going to be spending over the next few years in doing improvements to the 5 miles. Again, unfortunately, only 5 of the 55 are city owned. So we're hoping that a lot of the residents, as they do improvements, that they will have to abide by the ordinance and help us, because again, it's like, if you build this to 5.7 but everything else is lower, that water will seek its own level and find the way. So the idea here is eventually to get as much of the seawalls surrounding Miami Beach to that level, so that again we can protect it not only from the tidal influence, but from sea level rise, because that's really the intent here.
Right. Okay. Do we have any other questions from our residents or from our board? Gosh, I think we're getting. You're almost out of here, Joe.
There's one last question, and that's in the chat. It's from Rodney Blockus. It says, what work is happening on the bridge between Belle Isle and Revo Alto Island? What are they working on? There seems to be a lot of activity.
There were 2 things. There was a force main break that we repaired last week. And that was the subaqueous, right at the beginning of the subaqueous crossing. That's the one that leaked into the bay. We did the repairs. That one, gratefully, we were able to do completely off the roadway. We didn't have to block the street. The other one is on the other side, just a little further to the west, is the water main that ruptured. We went back and started doing the final. We had done temporary repairs because of the Miami Marathon. We had to get out of the way to allow the runners to go through the bridges. We're not going back. We had to wait until Miami-Dade Water and Sewer gave us the clearance, because Miami-Dade Water and Sewer currently is replacing these pretty large valves. That's the system that controls the water that comes into the island. And last night, in fact, they worked all night to replace this gigantic 36-inch valve that feeds our system. And so we had to reroute and do certain things with the pressure. So the crew is finishing up that work. It may take another day or so to complete that. And that's the water main just on the other side of where the sewer main ruptured, just a little bit to the west. Those are the only two that I know of. Any other activity, I know that Miami-Dade was putting in the bike lane, and they've been going out there and painting the green bike lanes. That was their project with the armadillos. That's Miami-Dade County, the Department of Transportation and Public Works.
All right, I almost forgot to ask you like one of the most important questions.
Of course.
Recently, Belle Isle has been the victim of what goes on in other parts of the city. We recently got our sidewalks bombarded with thousands of lines of spray paint and squiggly lines and everything else. And I know this goes on all over. I don't know that this goes on in other regions like it does here. It's really crazy to us. Why the hell do they not put something in the sidewalks that delineate where these lines are when they put the sidewalks in, or any kind of QR code that shows where these lines are? We can see the lines. It's like, it's excessive what they do. Do you know what they're doing here now and why they're doing it, and why these things are never cleaned up after they do it?
The spray paint is, well, it's a couple of things. Number one, by Florida statutes, utilities have to be located whenever there's construction work nearby, and that's the whole. And that those laws came into effect over time because of a lot of ruptures that were happening during construction, and utilities were being affected, and then it was being passed on to the consumer. So the legislature went ahead and said, we've got to regulate, we got to bring this under control. So a lot of regulations were passed, and part of that is that whenever you work in public rights of way, you must call and you must have the utilities marked, and every color signifies a different type of facility. So that's why you see the myriad of colors. Sometimes you see blue, green, yellow, orange, and that's because each of them have a distinct color. It's supposed to, it's not permanent paint, so it washes off over time. Now, people will argue that it takes months and months, and yeah, it is true that it's not the type of stuff that washes off in 2 weeks. And the reason for that is they want to market it one time, and if a construction project lasts for months, they don't want those markings to go away, because then the contractor doesn't know exactly what a facility is. Your idea about QR codes and all that, that's great. I think technology is moving in the direction of, and now there's equipment that can actually scan and be able to see a lot of the utilities, but those pipes have to have sensors on them so that this technology can see them through a QR code or anything like that. We're not quite there yet. I know the newer technologies and stuff I've been reading, we're moving in that direction where it's going to be a lot easier and a lot less intrusive on neighborhoods when you have all these markings. But of course, whenever there's construction around, you're going to see they're going to come out, and we just saw this the other day around our building. All of a sudden, Ali, our city manager, we were having a meeting in her conference room. She looks out the window. How come all these things are marked right in front where the convention center is? And apparently, it's for the convention hotel that's going to be built. Well, they sent out the locates, And of course, they marked it right before the boat show. So yeah, go figure. But it is unfortunately it's the law. They have to be marked and clearly marked.
Okay, good to know. It drives us all crazy, but
I know. It drives me crazy. Believe me. Sometimes I walk around where I live and I see all these markings and my God, again. But I get it.
okay. I have one more and then I'm not going to stop. We have some things on Belle Isle where we have streets that have sunk below the sewers, the drains, and the edging. So these streets basically along the edge where cars park along Belle Isle. And so we have dirt and sediment and water that pools and weeds growing because the water can't get to the drain.
Right.
Who do we call to fix that? And do we have to wait until a geobond?
You're talking to the right guy, Scott. Here's what I'll do. If you want, we can arrange for me to make a site visit at some point when it's convenient. I'll come out, walk the area with you. We can look at it, and then I can regroup with my team and see what we can do.
That'll
Yeah.
be my last mission as president to do that with you. I'd love that. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, does anybody else have a question for Director Joe Gomez of Public Works before we let him get on with his life? Thank you.
There was one last question in the Q&A. It's from Melissa Beatty, and she's wondering if the city's considered incentives to have residents raise seawalls.
Good question, Miss Beatty. I don't know. I know in our ordinance there's good question. Let me do a little research for you. Let me pull that ordinance and see. There may be. I know we're working out through a private the private property adaptation program. I think Commissioner Samuelin, who's present, I think he's involved with that with our Chief Resiliency Officer Amy Knowles. So there may be something coming out of that. But I will get you that ordinance. I'll look at it and see. But I think incentives are always good.
Okay. On that note, Joe, I want to thank you again. Listen, on behalf of the residents, you were a pleasure. You responded immediately when I sent an email out. It's so kind of you to take time out of your personal time to be here after hours, and we're very grateful for it. So it was a pleasure meeting you, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And Scott, I'll email you the presentation, and I'll also give you my cell number if you ever need it, so we can set up that time to do the field visit. Okay.
Great. So much.
Thank you all. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was good. Thank you, Joe. Now, finally, we're going to move on to our priorities for 2022, and then we are going to open it up for other questions that did not have to do with Public Works. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Sean Patrick, if you will. Let our residents know what we've been working on and what we want to take care of in 2022 going forward.
Okay, I can do this in just a couple minutes, sir. Hold on one second. Okay, is my screen coming through? Okay. These are the goals that we're going to work on for 2022. There's additional goals besides this, but I'm just going to list what the board came up with. Maintain the pristine park by improving areas such as the dog park, park amenities, furniture in the park, children's playground. Increase the engagement with the Belle Isle residents. We're going to actively work to grow our email list and to have some ongoing communication with the residents. Traffic management, we're going to address issues of street closures, parking, speeding. We're going to work with Public Works on sidewalk safety and just what Scott was talking about, the drainage concerns. promote information sharing amongst the buildings on Belle Isle and also the residents. We touched on this and underground electrical utility power lines along the Venetian Causeway. Address noise issues on the water and also on the causeway. And then we're working on BIRA governance, which also includes improving board member engagement, obtaining residents to volunteer on projects, and developing a budget. And just one last comment here that BIRA welcomes the resident volunteers to improve Belle Isle. We will be reaching out to the residents to explain how they can volunteer to participate in the activities to improve our neighborhood. So with that, Scott, I'll give it back to you.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to other questions that you guys have about other issues. There are some you wrote in ahead of time, which I'll start going through, but if you want to raise your hands and ask any questions, we're happy to answer them. So let me just see here. We had a question of the circle at Century Lane and in front of the Standard Hotel. What's going to be done to alleviate the cars going the wrong way and that mess? The city is actually working on something with the county. They were talking about changing the signalization of it, which I think is a mess. So I think we're still dealing with, the county did that reconfiguration without any resident input, and we've been paying for it ever since. So it's a problem, Jeff. I know it's right in front of your building, and we are still working on it. We're just not happy with kind of the answers we've gotten so far. So, you know, this is a thing. We definitely want to, we advocate and we are involved and we are reaching out, but nothing ever substitutes for residents reaching out themselves and to commissioners and bringing these problems up, because they need to be brought up regularly, and it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So, you know, I would just like to remind you of that. The mooring fields and the abandoned vessels that are going on all over. We had a meeting. There was a seminar about that a few weeks ago, I think. I'm losing all contact of time right now. But we are definitely, the mooring fields is something that we support, and it goes back to the no wake zone and the noise from the jet skis and from the boats. It's something that's really surfacing. Both our neighborhood association, West Avenue, is upset about it, and so is the Venetian Neighborhood Alliance. So we're all talking about that, and it's something that we do want to keep bringing up to our commissioners, and we're working on it. Any questions yet that have come up? Laura, can you monitor? I don't know. No
Yes,
one's.
there's a question from Miriam Lopez. Any update on the status of the new Belle Isle rental building?
No, I mean, you know, that's one of those things that it just seems to have stalled. We've all asked many questions, and every time we say, when is it going to open? We keep being told like the next quarter and the next quarter, and it's been going on for a year like that. So I don't know, Miriam, why that hasn't opened. No one seems to be able to understand. I think if you read the Belle Isle blog, which is back, we're happy to see that going out again. They did some investigation about it, and they didn't get a straight answer. But what they did understand was, from the permitting and where things stand, that it was going to be a while. I think the latest we're looking at least 3 or 4 months, and it seems like longer. So we don't know. We're all dying. That's the $1 million question, is when that's going to open. Let's see what else we're dealing with. We know the dog park is muddy, and we know they put rocks in. Some people like the rocks, some people don't like the rocks. I did reach out to the Parks Department this evening. I haven't heard back yet. I know this has been coming up, and I will tell you, the Parks Department is very good and responsive to us. So I brought it up again.
Scott?
I think it was part of it, and it rained where they grew sod, and so we didn't have sod last year like we normally do. We are also looking at a pilot project of artificial turf in our dog park. This city does not do it, other cities do, but our Parks Department has been amenable to trying it here to see how it works. So Debbie Leibowitz and I have been working on that. Gary, you have a question?
Yes, I want to discuss what we sent out, the email blast about the state legislature and the two bills. Is Michael Grieco still on the website with us? Our representative up there, is he with us or not? Seems like not.
No, he's not on right now.
Okay, we sent out information about HB 325 for the House and SB 512 for the Senate. That's rapidly going through committees up there, and by the end of this month, it'll probably reach the full House and the full Senate. We've asked you to call or write or text the people involved with promoting this. Jason Fisher, who's up in Jacksonville, 350 miles away from us, but he wants to preempt our local regulations about short-term rentals. That apartment house across the street with 172 units coming online, supposedly, could, if the laws pass and get signed by the governor, become resort rental units. That means that they can no longer have to provide 6 month and a day leases. They can do it every night of the week and all the time. The old rental building next to it could then do the same thing. So we're asking your help. We have stopped it the last 2 years, but it's rapidly moving. Michael Grieco is fighting it. We're losing our state senator, Jason Pizzo, because his district has been changed to make it a more Republican district. And Michael Grieco is going to run for that position this November, and we'll need our support because the woman that he's running against, you may have remembered that last 2 years ago, Javier Rodriguez from Hialeah lost his seat as a Democratic senator because the Republican senator nearby put up a fake candidate with the same name, and the woman got elected. She's running to be our senator. And we have a long fight ahead on this one, but we need your help to text or write or call Daniel Burgess, Jason Fisher, the Speaker of the House, Chris Prowse, the Senate President, Wilton Simpson. It's all on that sheet. And we need your help to make it happen again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Any questions?
Scott, this is Gary Core. I wrote the question on the chat, but when we turn right from Island Avenue onto the Venetian, the motorists on the north side still come at you like they're not yielding, even though a sign went up to yield. They're still not yielding to the motorists turning right onto the Venetian. Would it make sense for DOT to put a specific arrows going left and right for that traffic to happen? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think they'll put arrows because there's enough traffic to warrant arrows. Like by the time the cycle's over, all the cars were able to get out. I'll also tell you that adding more cycles to anything as far as traffic signalization goes is really problematic on the Venetian with the bridges and everything else that's happening. Yeah, it is. That's going to be an enforcement issue. I don't know why people on that intersection think they can make a left with oncoming traffic without yielding. It's really bizarre how they just feel entitled on that one road. It's odd. So yeah, I think we probably need to increase visibility of signage, if not, and do enforcement. I mean, if that happened a few days, or perhaps even I don't know if they would put a camera there, but I think we'll look into it. We're really trying to get those issues sorted out on this island with the cross traffic on the Venetian, because it's problematic actually at both intersections. So
yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Ian Rand had a question. As traffic is becoming more of a problem, are lead lights turning onto Belle Isle under consideration?
Again, Ian, I don't think that, I know what you're saying, but I don't think that ultimately, when you make a left to come onto Belle Isle, that you have to wait more than one light change to do it. So while you can't go at the beginning, you have to wait. I don't think it warrants the volume to put left turn lights on there. So yeah, that's all I can say. And also, you know, I say to everybody, when the bridge goes up, and we've all been stuck when traffic's really bad, heading westbound from like Trader Joe's. I know there's times on those crazy days when traffic backs up down Dade Boulevard, down 17th, heading north on West Avenue. Every time we add another stoplight or left turn signal or something else, it really sends waves that last many blocks and many signalizations when traffic's that heavy. So, you know, they're really, it's something you really have to consider, the benefit of the whole system versus somebody who wants to easily make a left on Belle Isle when ultimately they're going to be able to make a left. They're just going to have to wait till the end of the cycle instead of the beginning. So the same thing, I think, when you see on, when you head on Dade Boulevard to go to Alton Road, that traffic backs up to make a left onto Alton, and it's frustrating, but eventually the light's long enough that you do mostly get through on the one light change. So they wouldn't necessarily change that because you're still getting through on one light change. So anyway, that's my non-engineer standpoint. I did spend 8 years on the Transportation and Parking Committee, so I saw a lot of this stuff. That's why I'm not a know-it-all. I just really sat through a lot of this stuff. And I can call BS when they when they say something that's not necessarily true. So I'm with you. I know the frustration, but that's what I'm seeing. So anybody else?
No more questions in the chat or Q&A.
Wow. So we're hitting 8:05. We're about on time. Does anybody want to say anything else before we log off? No. Well, I'm going to say as I'm stepping down from president, it's only because my other commitments and work life are really taking a toll. I'm also president of 9 Island Avenue, which is going through a major 40-year recertification. I'm on the design review board, and I'm a very busy realtor right now. So I'm not leaving the board. I'm staying on. I will always love this organization. And Herb's still here, who got me into this position 11 or 12 years ago, whatever it is at this point. And so I will be sticking around, and I'm always here to offer my help and service and input whenever needed. So I'll be around, but I'm really excited to pass the baton. We have some great new energy and very, very capable people that are stepping up. So it's a real exciting time. I think some new blood and some new energy will be great for all of us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. You did a great job, and place looks great. Everything's terrific. Way to go. Be well and success.
Well, I'm not leaving anywhere, Herb. I'll see you.
I know, but you got a lot on your plate.
I do, but we all do. So anyway, thank you guys for stepping up. Sean Patrick, it's really great to see you here. Kara, it's wonderful that you're stepping up to be secretary. I'm sorry we don't see you tonight, but we're looking forward to working with you. And Laura, everybody who's here, it's great. We really have a dynamic group now. And I'm really excited. I think the neighborhood's only going to get better. So thank you very much. On that, I guess we will call the meeting at 8:07. We'll be done.
Great.
Okay. Thanks, guys.